Okay, it's recording now. You guys are all set.
So I think I'm supposed to make roll call, right? Steve,
I'm here.
Leonie,
Present.
and no members of the public, right? Great. So I'm going to share my screen, or at least try. So I got a few more community surveys that were done. So I went through Brookfield, Mass, Marshfield, Mass, and I'm not sure who this one is from because I can't see it. I'm getting a lot of feedback from someone.
I muted Steve.
Fair enough. Sorry, Steve.
That should be better.
I'm in Chelmsford. So the one thing I noticed is most of them had at least one option of like fill in the blank at the end. Other than that, it was all like yes, no's because it's easily quantifiable that way. So I know we had talked about the first 1, 2, or 3 questions being somehow to ascertain whether or not the person is from Bridgewater. I don't know if you two have a thought on how you want to do that. I mean, people can also lie, right? So like if someone really wants to waste their time creating fictitious survey results for the town of Bridgewater, Massachusetts' Charter Review Committee, like there's not a whole lot I think we can do to stop that. So my thought would be maybe go ahead.
Go ahead. I was thinking, I mean, for the purpose of like an audit, right? I'm putting on my federal hat here. If you capture, there's a way to make it one question where you capture all that information, the name and the address. And so if someone wants to challenge the results of the survey, and we have that information, they could always do a search and see, tie the name to the address. So as long as it doesn't take up too many questions, I think it's worth the effort when thinking about being overly cautious about it, especially since this document is one of the most important legal documents that we have in the town.
So here's my only issue with that is that by doing that, you prevent people from having anonymity in their responses. And I'm not sure if we're required to provide them, based on looking at the other ones that we've done, including some of the old ones, it doesn't look like we have to collect it. Because if people want to answer anonymously, they can. Like, so the town of Chelmsford, theirs is pretty in-depth with the interactive form, but the Brookfield is literally just a bunch of yes, no's. They have a lot of stuff in here, but there's nowhere in here where it says that you are, in fact. Like, there's no way to verify that. You see what I mean?
Only maybe based on the dissemination, if they mailed it, maybe that's how I don't know if it's a paper or email one, right? So if they mailed it, there is a way for them to have.
Sure.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on how it was disseminated. And 2, if we ask sensitive questions where people want to remain anonymous, I can understand that concern because we want people to feel free. But I mean, I don't have any questions that would make people feel a little uncomfortable about revealing who they are. I don't know what kind of questions we would come up with that would.
Well, I guess my question would be: is there any requirement for us to verify that, like, to document and verify and document that the person responding is a Bridgewater resident? Like, yes, I understand. It's better if we get Bridgewater people to respond, but is there any legal requirement for us to make sure that they are a Bridgewater resident?
Yeah, that's a question that we probably have to move forward. I know that the charter references Bridgewater citizen and residents throughout, and so we would, but I don't know if there's a legal requirement. So we should probably forward that to the town attorney.
Yeah, but I think that might answer, like, fill 1 or 2 of the questions, right? Because if we don't need to verify beyond asking, the other way, I mean, like asking someone to put in their last name and their street address, like I don't think that's, if they don't answer it or they just put fake information in there, what do we get? We can't do anything with it anyway. You know what I mean?
And I think we could filter and say, are you a Bridgewater resident, right? Because thinking about how we're going to disseminate this survey, it's going to be in some places or spaces where they're not all going to be residents of Bridgewater. So example, I have my group around diversity and inclusion, and I'd like to disseminate it there because that Facebook group has a certain subpopulation. And so I think it would be helpful to at least at a minimum say, are you a Bridgewater resident, so that we could filter out those who might have accidentally answered or surveyed, but are not the kind of input that we're looking for.
Right. But so that's what I mean, right? Like if that's a simple question of, are you a Bridgewater resident? And the answer yes or no, like that's easy to like throw in there. But we're not verifying that answer, and I'll email the town attorney and find out if we have to verify that information or not. If we don't, I think that's the best way to do it. Question number one: are you a Bridgewater resident? And then question number two, I think should be: have you ever read the town charter before?
That wouldn't be a bad one to add. But can you make an optional question, like if you feel comfortable enough to put your address on there? You know, make that just an optional question to answer?
We can, but remember, so in order to make this free, we're limited to 10 total questions.
Right, no, I understand that, but instead of like, you know, saying what we guys were talking about, just make, you know, one of the questions, put in your address or whatever, just make it an optional question where they don't have to, if they don't want to, if they don't feel comfortable, right? Say, oh, so are you a current resident? Yes. Can you put in your address, or, you know, can you tell us your address as the second question? That's kind of verifying.
Yeah. Is that, who's beeping? Oh, I actually found a way that we can ask the demographic questions. We could ask several questions under one. And if I can share my screen, I can show it to you.
You mean like question one be, are you a resident? Question two, please provide your name and address.
No, it's actually just one question. I was surprised. I actually put it together for another survey, and I just didn't remember that I could do that. I'll see if I could share my screen. Yeah, I can. The question is, what is your contact information? And then you can put as many options as you'd like. Not that I'm trying to, you know, you see it? Can you see it?
Yep. And that's going to work in SurveyMonkey? All right.
It is in SurveyMonkey. Yeah, so it is one question, just capturing the demographics.
Okay. What is that?
Yeah, it's. I got a truck trying to back up, but
all right,
it's gone now.
As long as it's not my fire alarm
Sorry.
going off, I don't care.
No, it's me. I'm like out here in public, so I'm trying to my best I can to
Fair enough.
limit the outside of interference.
All right. Well, so Cleone, I like that as question one, to steal that.
Yeah, I do too. That looks good.
All right. So then I guess if we do that, that's our way to verify that the person is from Bridgewater, right? As best we can. Like that's, in my opinion, the good faith effort, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with a spot for 9 more questions, right?
Yeah. Do we care if the resident has ever served on a board or is currently serving on a board or committee for the town government?
I mean, I think it would be nice to know, and if we have the space, we could use it, but I don't know. Does it make a difference? How much of a difference does it make if they're
I know.
like if they're a resident, right?
Well, I think that when they have that background, they're a little more like in tune with what's going on with the charter, and they have more of like a background as far as like how does it actually affect them more as a resident or as a committee member or, you know, a council member or a board member of some sort.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. It's like how informed are they? You know, how how much weight to put to their comment based on them being part of the system
Yeah.
or
Okay.
just a resident. And if we have someone who's really focused on making a change, is it possible that they will anonymously fill in our survey with some really strong points that will draw our attention, and at the same time also respond in their capacity as, you know, a committee member or a board member, and kind of we'll look at this and like, wow, this is a hot topic in 2 different places, and it really would be a skewed response. Unlikely, but hey, just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So I think question 1 is the demo stuff. Question 2 is, have you ever served on or been part of the town of Bridgewater's government in some capacity?
Do you have a better way of wording that, Cleone?
Do you or have you served on an elected or appointed town board or committee? Yes or no? If yes, which board or committee?
Okay. So that's 2. Just give me 1 second.
Steve, we're going to get you back to your family quick.
You know, it's all good. I warned them, so I just stepped away, so I'm hoping that it's a little more quiet over here.
All right. So question 3, do you want to address the recall provision and the term limits next?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of touching on, well, how do you guys want to do it? Do you guys just want to kind of go through all the questions that you guys have or each of us have at once and then go to the next person?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine by me, and I'll write them down as we go. So 1 and 2, 1 is demos, 2 is involvement. Who wants to go first?
Cleone, I think you've already hit on a couple of yours if you want to just keep on rolling.
I have here, how would you rate the overall operation of the town of Bridgewater? So my perspective, like I've shared, is like a social worker. And so I always look at where people are before I put in the questions that we want answered. So mine are very general. And then I have how familiar are you with the town charter? Not at all familiar, somewhat familiar, very familiar. How much?
Okay.
And then I have, should we just talk about each of them before I just keep going?
I would just rip through. Tell you to rip through 'em.
Okay. Which areas are most important for change in Bridgewater's town government? What do you think are the most important issues facing the town of Bridgewater? Any other suggestions or recommendations? And what more can be done to encourage participation by the residents and constituents in Bridgewater government?
Okay.
So, Cleone, you kind of went through and made yours more of like open-ended questions, I think. Is that more of how your idea was to really kind of get them to think and write something out?
So of the questions that I have, there are 4 of them that are open-ended, correct? And I wanted to kind of, you know, I know that we had mentioned that we're going to possibly get 500 respondents. The concern with that is because of the nature of the survey where you need to educate the public to even have buy-in, I don't think we'll get that many. And so I am proposing that we include some open-ended question with the expectation that analysis won't be that laborsome because not enough people understand what the charter is, and so they won't participate unless we have a unless we promote it in some way where we educate them, because I had to speak with 3 people to even understand what I was signing up for, to be completely honest with you.
So here's the only concern with that. If we're going to do this in August and it needs to be
It's the
analyzed and quantified by the second week in September, open-ending questions are going to make that almost impossible.
Yeah. So I would reduce it, but I'd like to at least have 1 or 2.
I mean, that's right. I think like the last question, my opinion would have been make the last question the open-ended one. What comments or recommended revisions do you have for the town of Bridgewater's charter?
I think that's probably pretty fair.
Like if we could, the first 8 questions or so, questions 1 and 2 don't count because they're the demographic and involvement, right? So really we have questions 3 through 10. And if 3 through 8 were yes or no questions and 9 and 10 were open-ended questions, that would give us a good chunk of yes or no's we can analyze pretty quick and reduce the number of open-ended questions. I do think 500 there's no way we're going to get 500 survey results, especially if we're asking intensive questions.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What did you have for questions?
Okay, hold on a second. I don't know if you can still view me if I go to my notes, so hold on one second.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the first one I have is, do you believe town councilors should receive a yearly stipend?
Okay.
And then my second one was, should the town clerk change from its current elected position to that of an appointed position?
Okay.
And third is, are you in favor of changing the current charter term limit language from, quote, 12 consecutive years, 4 terms, to 12 years, 4 terms, thus removing consecutive? And then number 4, should the required number of signatures to run for district town councilor be dropped from 100 to 75? And then the final question is, should a recall provision for elected officials be added to the charter? And so my idea behind these questions was more to gauge everybody's current stance on the major additions from the last time that the charter review committee convened.
I mean, I would agree.
Yeah, I like them as well. I think there has to be some education, though. We would have to provide a link or something, because all of this stuff is legal jargon for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I do think at the top of the survey, a link to the town charter is a must, and not just a regular, like a hyperlink that the blue text says town charter, like a written out hyperlink. So if someone prints it out and wants to type it back in, they have access to it.
Yeah, and not only that, but along with the survey being posted on like a post for Facebook, you can also link the actual charter reviews recommendations from the last time, because that's a live document that everybody has the ability to read as well. And it'll give them a little bit more background if they choose to actually dive into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so my questions, Steve, are pretty similar. It was, should the word consecutive be removed from term limits? Should the town clerk become an elected rather than an appointed rather than an elected position? Should the town councilors receive a stipend for service, but US, like your annual, I like better? A required number of signatures on ballots to be required? Should there be a requirement for the number of signatures collected become electronic? So like, do people need to have a hard wet signature, or can they electronically sign stuff now? And that was in favor of COVID. And then should a recall provision be added to the charter? I had the same one. So relatively similar.
Yeah, I would say so.
So here would be my thought. I'll try to put them all together in a list of like 10, and keeping 9 and 10 as open to try to get in some of Cleone's. Questions 1 and 2 be the demo and the involvement, and then try to mesh up the other ones for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then send it out to the two of you, and then we can talk about it at the 29th with the larger
Yeah.
group.
I think that's
works.
fair for sure. I think having the two open-ended at the very end is kind of a way for them to take a little more time at the end of the survey to, really see where they stand in terms of both knowledge and their position on their charter.
So Cleone, the two open ones, I would say I would do just to make sure I get all of them. I think number 10 should be, do you have any recommendations, or I have to think about how to word it, but it would be like recommendations for what areas do you think need the most improvement in the town charter, and what recommendations, if any, can you provide to the committee? Something like that.
And and can I suggest that when you say what recommendations you want to improve, if you can have wait for them to select, because the charter has these kind of titles, and so that they just need to check so that they don't use a term or provide a suggestion that's not even in the charter.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So I'll get working on that because we meet with them next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
I'll try to get that out to the two of you by like Monday. And I might even try to set it up in the SurveyMonkey so that if we want to make quick tweaks to it, we can. Do we want to try to have a quick conversation before we meet as the big group again? So maybe either next Wednesday midday or Wednesday right before our big meeting?
Yeah, I'm open to that.
The sooner the better, so I could block it out on my calendar. And Ed won't be able to make that next bigger meeting, so I'm leading that meeting, just a FYI.
So do you want to, on that day, do you want to do lunch time again, or do you want to do it like 6:45 right before?
It doesn't, on next, you said Wednesday?
Yeah, because that's our next, we do have a meeting Wednesday, right?
The 29th, right? I think so.
Yes, we do. Yeah, so meeting before works for me, or noon. Either or works for me.
Yeah. Yep. Either's fine. Let's do the 6:30 or 6:45 again.
Well, let's schedule for 6:30. If we have a few minutes break between the two again, we'll do it that way.
Okay.
Great. So I'll try to have the SurveyMonkey up and ready to go for that.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Thank you, Josh.